Mojang just released another huge update for Minecraft 1.21 on Bedrock Edition. Hardcore mode is officially here now and working properly, and after years of waiting, we have 100% TNT drop rate. So this allows for a ton of new technology like blasting chambers and all kinds of fun stuff. Oh, and they broke basically every mob farm on Bedrock Edition, so let's hop into it. So this is beta 1.20.020, meaning that Mojang is officially working on the 121 update, even though they've already said that we've gotten every single feature for 1.21 already. Basically, this just means that 120.80 is going to be releasing for Bedrock soon, and 121 is very, very close. I'd say probably like 2 months or less. The main things in this beta is everything that we've seen in the recent snapshots, like the ominous trials, ominous bottles, keys, spawners, and vaults, also the new potion effects and trial chamber updates. I've already made a deep dive on all of that stuff, of course, so you can check out that video if you don't know about the ominous changes. And of course, this implements the raid farm changes to Bedrock Edition as well. I already did a deep dive in my previous video on that as well. And let's take a look at the new hardcore mode. So when you go to create a new world, you're going to have a new toggle right here for hardcore, and this is going to start locking some of your settings. So as you see, it's locked to survival and hard mode, and if we go into advanced, even some of this stuff is locked as well. Now luckily, you are able to turn on coordinates in hardcore, which is very nice, and interestingly, you can also turn on flat world as well. And this is actually a long-standing bug. So previously, you could not have a survival flat world. It always puts you into creative as soon as you try to put it into a flat world. And as you can see, you also get this nice little pop-up telling you what hardcore mode is. When you die, you will not respawn. Game over. You can't turn off hardcore mode after creating this world, and after you die, you can see but not interact with the world. This is actually a great pop-up to have because, of course, not everyone knows what hardcore is. And look at that, we actually have survival mode in a super flat. This has been years in the waiting for Bedrock Edition. Super cool to finally have this. And now you can just create these regularly, so if you want to have a survival flat world, then you can do that. It no longer automatically puts it into creative when you select flat world. As you can see, you can still change a majority of the basic options when you are in hardcore, so this is nice. You still have a little bit of freedom when it comes to all of your world settings, so you can still turn off fire spreads or TNT if you want to while playing hardcore. And as you can see, we also have the hardcore hearts now, so that was not in the previous beta, and if we go ahead and take damage and die, we'll see what happens. And there we go. As you can see, we get put into third-person mode on the death screen because this is the new death screen, and if we hit respawn, as you can see, we are now in spectator mode, which is amazing. So hardcore is officially fully working for Bedrock Edition, and of course you can go ahead and use this like regular spectator because that's all it is. Okay, so now if we go ahead and leave the world, this world is still here, and if we try and rejoin it, we're still going to be in spectator mode. I took some damage there. I think it just put us into survival for a second. Probably a little bug to work out there, but nothing to worry about right now. So this is interesting. I'm invisible and it looks like I'm in spectator, but I'm actually, like, I have a hitbox. As you can see, I can take damage and I can die. This is very peculiar. I've never died in spectator mode before. I died again. Okay. I can't break or interact with anything, but I'm definitely not in proper spectator. Okay, so there's still a couple small bugs to work out. After so many years of waiting, Bedrock Edition finally has 100% TNT drop rates. So if you don't know what this is, prepare to be amazed. When I blow up this piece of TNT, every single block that it destroys will actually be dropped as an item, instead of the previous system where only some of them would drop as an item. So if we go to survival mode, as you can see, we got over a stack of slime balls from that, and that's actually enough to fill in this entire platform again. And as you can see, we can go ahead and repair all of the damage that was done by this piece of TNT, and of course this applies to any block that the TNT can explode. So if you blow up a crater on the ground over here, every single one of those blocks will actually be dropped as an item, and we can go ahead and fill in all of this again, repairing any damage that was done. To be clear, this has not been applied to creepers yet. On Java Edition, creepers also have this 100% drop rate. This also needs to be applied to creepers. That way, when they blow up our builds, we can easily rebuild them without losing a bunch of materials. To be clear, this is absolutely huge and something that we've been asking for on Bedrock Edition for literally years. Like, since we've had this on Java, we've been asking to get this on Bedrock Edition, and it's here. This is going to allow us to do so much more stuff with blasting chambers, for tree farms, for stone farms, cobblestone farms, concrete converters, basically anything that has blocks, we will now now be able to automatically break and collect those blocks by using TNT. So absolutely huge. We love to see it, and this is just a great change all around. We also have even more UI changes in the beta this week. So we have new screens for seeing your achievements, and you can even compare that to your friends as well. We also have a new stats screen where you can compare your stats to your friends' stats, and in general, just a lot of updates to friends' screens, but they've actually had to turn them off in this week's preview, so all I have are these little screenshots to show you. There are a couple other UI changes that I've noticed, like this little button right here to change your world view from this nice little grid to the rows, and of course this one actually shows you the date of your world and your world size now, which is very good. And also check out the new sounds for the friends drawer. You open that up, you get a nice little sound for the chest, and then if you click off of that, it also makes a closing sound. It's so cool, I love it. Another update, another bug with boats come and gone, and this time we are now able to stand on boats that are in the water again. So as you see, when you get out of these things, you can actually stand on them. Previously, when you got out of the boat, you would fall directly through them and start drowning in the dark abyss below you, but we don't want to talk about that. So now you can actually go ahead and make bridges out of boats. This is great. This is a feature that we had a long time ago, but it broke, and now it's back again. So last week, Mojang added new placing and breaking sounds to cobwebs on Java Edition. And they said they added this to Bedrock, but they definitely did not. So taking a look at the changelogs, I mean, we covered all the interesting stuff. We got all the new ominous trials and that stuff. We covered the new hardcore mode additions and even the new UI. We even talked about this tiny little change with boats that affects basically every player, so surely there's nothing more in this update. Wait, what? Mobs? Naturally spawning mobs now spawn in the center of a block instead at the corner of a block. This fixes many issues where mobs could not spawn on slopes and narrow passages and in other situations where they were expected to. For technical players, this bug fix will mean that some player-made mob farms will no longer fully work. We appreciate the time the community puts into building clever farms, and we try to avoid breaking farms where we can. In this case, we felt this change was necessary because it improves the way spawning works in many biomes. To be clear, this breaks basically every mob farm. I do not expect this change to be reverted in any way. Mojang fully expected some backlash or whatever you want to call it from this change, and that is why they said that in the change logs. However, this isn't the absolute end of the world. It just means that we have to spend a ton of time redesigning existing tech from like the previous years, and this breaks a ton of things, and overall it's just kind of demoralizing for anyone who has good mob farms on Bedrock Edition. It's also going to waste a ton of people's time where they're going to have to go rebuild their survival farms, but we will rebuild and we will still have some decent mob farms going forward. And the irony is not lost on me that they just made TNT useful in this update while simultaneously breaking the mob farms that produce gunpowder for us, making it way more difficult to get mass quantities of TNT. The irony is so thick, you could cut it with a butter knife. Okay, but real talk, I do appreciate the sentiment from Mojang, you know, trying not to break stuff where they can, but this is also the same update that breaks raid farms and now basically every good Bedrock mob farm, which is really rough. So to demonstrate what has changed here, previously mobs would spawn on the very corner of a block or essentially in between 4 blocks. They would always spawn on the northwest corner, so it kind of looked a little bit something like this. Now, it seems like a very small change. Really, the mobs are just moving like half a block inwards. Now they spawn at the very center of a block, which is how they spawn on Java Edition and how they spawn on, you know, Legacy Console Edition. So overall, it seems like a very small change. However, mobs have always spawned in this way on Bedrock Edition, and basically every mob farm that has any complexity to it since 1.16 has essentially been broken by this very small, seemingly innocent change. So this change also breaks Insta-Push, which is a classic Bedrock Edition feature. As you can see, we got a bunch of mobs spawning inside of these glass blocks here. Normally, they would fall out immediately and die, but that is no longer the case here. Now, there is sometimes where this works. It's a bit directional, so this side right here doesn't work because it's going in the north-south direction, but this one over here on the east-west does sort of work. It's a bit inconsistent. As you can see, we have some guys falling out back there. This also changes spider-proofing inside of our mob farms. So previously, the mobs would spawn on the corner here, meaning that the button would would prevent the spider from spawning, but that's no longer the case because now they spawn in the middle of the platform, and that just means that we're gonna have to change up how we spider-proof our mob farms. As you can see, we have buttons on this entire platform up here, and we're getting tons and tons of spiders. Luckily, this does not affect our very basic scaffolding and water-based mob farms. These ones should work fine now. They might even be a little bit better because previously the walls on the edges here would stop a couple of these spawns. Because of the directional spawning, that's why I actually used glass inside of the walls here, because mobs don't care about glass. But now you can just replace these with regular solid blocks, but then you would need to have slabs or some buttons on top of it to prevent spiders from spawning in this little gap right here. So the ultra basic mob farms of Bedrock Edition are fine. They might even be a little bit tiny bit better, and you can also replace these walls with regular blocks, making them just a bit cheaper. However, more advanced mob farms like creeper only mob farms got completely ruined here. So for example, I was about to collab with Mike Homer on their creeper farm that produces like 14,000 gunpowder an hour, but this change completely ruins that farm. So this is the Lotus, and how it worked is you would basically have the creepers spawn on that very corner block right there, and then they have a trapdoor above them, so only creepers would spawn. The iron bars would stop spiders, and then because they were on the corner there, they were automatically inside of the water stream, which meant that they would get taken to your kill chamber. But now they only spawn in the center of the block, so they're not in the water stream. You have to rely on them to pathfind, and pathfinding is incredibly unreliable and slow and just bad. But anyway, as you can see, we're also getting spiders in this design now, and in general, the rates of this thing just got absolutely nuked. Now, this does not affect everything. For example, structures still spawn mobs on the northwest corner, so all structure farms have basically been untouched by this change, but I actually think that this is a little bit of an oversight, and I doubt that this is going to stay the case. I assume that they will be moved to center spot spawning sometime soon, because it just seems weird to have two systems now. So low-key, we're actually back to like waffle-style designs, which is where we started. These are the designs that we started with. We've come so far that we're back to where we started now. However, there is a bunch of other good bugs that could be fixed at the same time as this that would actually fix mob farms and make them better and kind of like offset the badness of this change, if you know what I mean. So Mojang, if you're watching, we got some other bugs for you to fix. So first of all, you gotta fix the bug with Tridents. Tridents are falling down out of every Trident killer on Bedrock Edition. They're glitching themselves into the ground, sometimes all the way down to like 40 blocks below the farm. A few updates ago, we also had a change to Tridents where mobs could push them around when they get hit by them, and this actually breaks a ton of Trident killers and reduces the amount of design variation that we can have. As you can see, as we kill skeletons, these Tridents are going to get pushed away, and eventually they won't even be able to hit the skeletons that are in these minecarts. So it just doesn't really make sense for entities to be able to push a projectile on the ground. Like, we can't push around arrows that are on the ground. Why should we be able to push around Tridents? If we made these things immovable by entities, we could design so many more Trident killers, and that would really help out our mob farms in a bunch of ways, I would think. So before this change, we had Trident killers like this one right here, and this was perfectly reliable for several updates, but with the mobs being able to move around Tridents, it just gets stuck on the edge of the blocks now. Because Tridents can get pushed around by entities, that's why we had to start using the 2x2 design, and this keeps the Trident centered in the middle right there. There's also a big pathfinding bug. When a mob is trying to get from point A to point B and they fall down in the middle of their pathfinding, they will continuously still try to get to point B, which makes them jump out of water streams, out of lava, out of Trident killers, and this really just hurts mob farms in general. More of a game suggestion, but it would be really nice to have something that spiders could not climb, especially with that pathfinding bug. They will continuously climb up the walls, as you can see here, and this makes them very slow and difficult to kill in basically any mob farm. As you can see, they just get up right out of the water streams. I think it would make sense if they couldn't climb something like glazed terracotta. If slime can't stick to it, then surely a spider shouldn't be able to climb it, but that's more of a game suggestion than a bug fix. There's also a bug with the looting enchantment where it doesn't drop as many items as it should. If this bug got fixed, then rates of mob farms would be increased by about 25% 25%, which would significantly offset any losses due to this change. And there's also another bug where mobs killed by looting just don't drop any items at all, and that needs to be looked into because it affects like a ton of mobs that die in the mob farms. Apparently, Spider's hitboxes are also not the same between Bedrock and Java Edition, which really hinders our ability to prevent them from spawning in mob farms. If there was parity between the platforms here, this would actually help out a lot. And maybe it's time to rethink how density checks work on Bedrock Edition. A 9x9 chunk area of density checks is quite a lot, and if we rethink the density check situation, then that would actually allow for a lot more mob farms in a lot smaller area, and also just better rates in general. I don't think density checks have been changed at all in the history of Bedrock Edition, and with the big changes to spawning in 1.16 with despawning, it seems like it's over time that density checks on Bedrock Edition either get eliminated or just redone somehow. And next up, there's a few things that should not change if we want mob farms to exist at all on Bedrock Edition. We need mobs to be able to spawn with a block at their head height. This is crucial for a lot of different mob farms. As you can see, we can have things spawn with a glass block at their head level, or scaffolding, or whatever the case may be. Right now, they only do a block check at like their feet level, which is very important. If it stays that way, then we'll be in good luck for a while. Scaffolding is also another saving grace of Bedrock right now. Mobs can spawn with their feet inside of scaffolding. It's basically treated as an air block. If this changes, everything will break. Our most simple and basic mob farms will not exist anymore. So just don't touch scaffolding, okay? It needs to stay as is. And finally, if Trident killers break or get removed in any way, we will riot. This is a pact that we've made with the entire Minecraft community. Trident killers are literally like the only thing that give us any good rates with Bedrock Edition mob farms. So ultimately, we won the battle of getting 100% TNT drop rates, but we lost the war with all of our mob farms breaking. But hopefully you enjoyed today's Bedrock news video. If you did, then drop a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys down in the comments and in the next one.